So here I've got my 44 Magnum Desert Eagle. I'm going to take a couple shots with it out here on the range, and you can see that it actually doesn't have a ton of recoil. It's surprisingly less than you'd think it is, and surprisingly easier to control than, say, the 50 Action Express. Welcome to Milsurp Minutes. I'm Nick. Today we will be taking a look at a gun that many of you may know, but may not know much about, the Desert Eagle. The Desert Eagle was originally designed in the late 1970s and into the early 1980s. The purpose of the Desert Eagle initially was to offer an automatic pistol chambered in .357 Magnum. Automatic Magnum pistols were fairly uncommon prior to the Desert Eagle. Offerings such as the Automag pistol, the Wildy Survivor were being offered in the decade prior. In the mid-1980s, Magnum Research released the Mark I in .357 Magnum, followed by the .44 Magnum a few years later. The Mark I was followed by the Mark VII being released in 1990, with the Mark XIX being brought to market initially in 1995. This pistol in particular is an early Mark VII, made in 1990. It is chambered in .44 Magnum, which at the time was the largest caliber the Desert Eagles were offered in. The 50 Action Express chambering, which many people know the pistol for, was not available as an option until 1991. This gun weighs in at a whopping 4.2 pounds unloaded, which contributes to the lower felt recoil when firing. Along with the fairly stout recoil spring, this gun so far has felt like a heavier 1911 when it comes to shooting and recoil. Initially, Desert Eagles were made by IMI in Israel, until 1995, when production was briefly shifted to Saco, Maine in 1998. Until 1998. In 98, production shifted back to IWI, who had changed their name from IMI. This is where production would remain until late 2009. In late 2009 and years since, Desert Eagle pistols have been made in Minnesota and have continued to be manufactured after Magnum Research was acquired by Car Arms in 2010. I have heard there's been a drop in quality since production has moved to the United States. This pistol is the first one I've really handled, so I cannot speak to that claim with any accuracy. The overall design has not changed much since its introduction 40 years ago, with most changes having to do with the ease of mounting accessories and options for ported barrels to assist in recoil control. Now I'm going to bring the camera closer so I can show you how to disassemble this firearm. Disassembly of the Desert Eagle is fairly intuitive. To begin, we're going to pull the magazine out, make sure it's empty, and we're going to push back on the barrel. Then while pressing back on the barrel, you're going to push in on this plunger here. And while pushing in the plunger, you're going to lower this lever down, and now you'll be able to lift your barrel up and away from the gun. Next, you pull the slide off the front of the gun. Sometimes it's best to invert it like this though. You can pull the dual recoil spring and spring guide out. That'll then allow you to pull the gas piston out. Now it's important to know that there is a recess cut in the gas piston that aligns with the recoil spring, so these three components will lock together when you reinstall them into the gun. If they're not aligned properly, the gun will not go back together properly. After taking the gun apart, you can see the bolt face on the slide a little bit closer up, and you can see it's very reminiscent of that of an AR-15. As you can also see, the barrel extension on the barrel is very similar to that of an AR-15, and they lock together like so. If anybody was wondering, I reassembled the gun off screen for the sake of brevity. But on a final note, I have heard discussion that the Desert Eagle is a service pistol or military weapon. I believe this idea entered public consciousness because these guns were originally made by Israel Military Industries. I have seen one source to suggest that they have seen use by the Portuguese GOE, but I have not been able to find further evidence or images of this claim. The point is that the Desert Eagle is an incredibly interesting firearm in a mechanical and firing sense. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.